When you think of Elizabeth Taylor, what comes to mind? The icon, the violet-eyed movie star, or maybe the headline-grabbing collection of husbands and diamonds? Her fiery on-again, off-again romance with Richard Burton, set against the backdrop of Casa Kimberly in Puerto Vallarta, is the stuff of Hollywood legend. We remember the passion, the fights, and that larger-than-life love story. But what about the Elizabeth Taylor she became after the cameras stopped flashing and the scandals died down? To find that story, we have to go far from the drama of Mexico to a quiet street in Bel Air, Los Angeles. For 3 decades, one house was her sanctuary. This is the untold story of 700 Nimes Road, the home where a Hollywood legend finally found herself. For most of her life, Elizabeth Taylor was something of a glamorous nomad, moving between extravagant homes and hotel suites around the globe. But in 1982, after her divorce from Senator John Warner, she did something that would define the rest of her life. She put down roots. She bought a 1960s California ranch house for $2 million, and it would remain her home base for the next 30 years, until her death in 2011. This wasn't a movie set or a pit stop between husbands. This house, 700 Nimes Road, was different. It was where she wasn't just a star. She was a mom, a grandma, and eventually, a warrior for a cause that would redefine her entire legacy. Forget the tempestuous love nests. This is the story of her home. By 1982, Elizabeth had already lived a dozen lifetimes. She'd been a global superstar since she was a kid, and her life was a whirlwind of film sets, paparazzi, and 8 marriages that kept the tabloids busy. But buying the Bel Air house signaled a real shift. It was a deliberate choice to drop an anchor in her turbulent life. The 7,000-square-foot house wasn't as over-the-top as you might expect for a star of her magnitude. In fact, several sources note that the house had previously been the home of Nancy Sinatra, Frank's first wife. For Taylor, it became a place of comfort, a canvas for the next and arguably most important chapter of her life. Tucked away from the street behind a long private driveway and surrounded by lush trees and foliage, 700 Nimes Road immediately feels like a retreat. Its California ranch-style architecture is elegant, but surprisingly modest. It was that privacy she craved. The entryway was fragrant with gardenias, and when you stepped inside, you weren't entering a cold museum of fame, but a warm, inviting home. Her friend, the designer Valentino, once said that at home, she just wanted a cozy life with friends and good food. She wanted people to feel comfortable enough to spill a drink and not stress about it. The house was a direct reflection of her desire for some normalcy in an extraordinary life. The living room was the heart of the home, with a high wood-beamed ceiling and a big fireplace that made the grand space feel cozy. And in here, her 2 great passions were on full display: art and color. Her father was an art dealer, and she had an incredible eye. The walls were covered with masterpieces, including works by Van Gogh, Renoir, and Picasso. But right above the mantel hung a portrait by Frans Hals, and just to the right, a vibrant Liz silkscreen, a personal gift from Andy Warhol himself. The decor, updated over the years by her friend and designer Waldo Fernandez, featured plush white carpets and sofas in shades of lavender and blue, a nod to her famous violet eyes. It was a room made for living, not just for show. If the living room was the heart of the home, the garden was its soul. Elizabeth once told landscape designer Nicholas Walker that she'd spent her whole life trying to duplicate an authentic English herbaceous border. And while Southern California's climate is a far cry from the rainy English countryside of her youth, they created a masterpiece together. She wanted color and more color, all the time, and the garden delivered. With roses, jasmine, lily of the valley, and huge planters bursting with pansies, this lush, private world was her personal escape. It was here she would meditate by her koi pond and waterfall, and it's where she created beloved family traditions. Her grandchildren knew it as the spot for the annual Easter party, which often included an egg hunt and even a petting zoo. It was a space designed for family and fun, not fame. Downstairs, there was one space that did acknowledge her public life: the trophy room. It housed the many awards from her incredible career, alongside photos with other celebrities. But this home was also the headquarters for her life's second act. In the 1980s, as the AIDS crisis unfolded, fueled by fear and prejudice, Elizabeth Taylor refused to stay silent. After watching her friend Rock Hudson die from the disease in 1985, she was moved to action. From this very house, she started working tirelessly, co-founding the American Foundation for AIDS Research, or AMP. This room wasn't just about past glories. It became a command center for a global activist. Upstairs was Elizabeth's most private world. Because she battled illnesses throughout her life, she was determined to have a beautiful bedroom to recover in. The palette was soft and feminine, with shades of pale lavender and cream. It was her personal treehouse, a place where she could feel safe from the world. It was also filled with personal treasures, photos of her children and friends, and a pair of doves given to her by Michael Jackson, which she kept in a cage by the window. Her dressing rooms and closets were of course legendary, a dazzling archive of fashion history. But here they were simply part of her private world, a universe away from the red carpet. The truly untold story of this house is what happened within its walls. In 1991, Elizabeth took her activism a step further by establishing the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, or ETF. She launched it with the $1 million she earned from selling her wedding photos to a magazine. Her foundation was created to provide direct care and support for people living with HIV and AIDS. While many were still afraid, Elizabeth was on the front lines, lobbying Congress and using her powerful voice to fight stigma and demand action. She became the first globally recognized celebrity HIV and AIDS activist. And it all started right here, from the quiet sanctuary of her Bel Air home. Today, ETF continues the mission she began within these walls, funding mobile health clinics and advocating for social justice. For 30 years, the house at 700 Nimes Road was Elizabeth Taylor's anchor. It was so much more than a piece of real estate. It was the stage for a life lived fully and on her own terms. It was the place where she raised a family, hosted Easter egg hunts for her grandkids, and tended a garden that gave her peace. And it was the command center from which she launched a global humanitarian crusade that saved countless lives. While the world remembers the scandals of Catholic Kimberly, the final chapter of her story unfolded here. In a home that was surprisingly cozy, deeply personal, and filled with purpose, it was here, in her quiet Bel Air sanctuary, that Elizabeth Taylor, the movie star, became Elizabeth Taylor, the hero. Elizabeth Taylor left behind an incredible legacy, both on screen and off. What's your favorite Elizabeth Taylor movie, or your most vivid memory of her? Share it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, look into a hidden side of Hollywood history. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories of iconic homes.